Hello, everybody. So today's podcast is this is our second podcast, so episode 2. And today we're going to take a little bit of a different concept. Last time we were talking about, Victor, you could probably cover that.
Yeah, so last time we were talking about innovation and invention, hype and failure, so about everything that happened for the last few centuries.
So it was very technical.
Yeah, technical, about innovation, all those like scientific things.
Yeah, so last time it was technical, this time we're going to take a little bit more of a psychological approach. The book is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It's a popular book, there's a chance you've read it. It's number 1 in the New York Times. It's written by T.Harv Eker, Mastering the Inner Game of Wealth. So
I basically, I don't know anything about this book. Mm-hmm. Last week, I was the one that read it. This week is Daniel's part. And I'm probably gonna learn about it, know more about it throughout the podcast, discovering it with you guys, and try to give interesting insights.
So yeah, this book is the aim of the book is kind of to throughout the book to persuade you to change the way you think, because at the end of the day, the way you think is it influences everything. If your mindset is correct, you can achieve a lot more. If your mindset isn't. This book is separated from the contents page into 4 different sections. First, it explains to you why you should read this book and why you should trust the person who's written it. Then it's the money blueprint, which I'm going to quickly mention. And then it's going to talk about the wealth files and how the hell do you know if what you're doing is right. So why you should trust this book. I think this is interesting because the person himself actually reminds me a lot of me and you. He is...
In what sense?
He considers himself Mr. Potential. And you don't know us, but we have an ego of thinking we are also Mr. Potential. But he was hit by life, and life tends to do that, where he was 22, something like this, around this age group, and he was completely failing. He was Mr. Potential not only for himself, but his whole family, and he was failing, and he couldn't figure out why. So he kept asking himself this question. And before I go into it, something we even mentioned today, he only speaks from his own experience. So this is him.
Also, no empirical data, no, it's just him and...
Okay. It's him, and what worked for him might not work for you. However, he does have seminars, he does have groups of people he supports, and the success rate is very good. I've read students about the ones who've worked with him. It works. Okay. So the system does work. So what is the financial blueprint that he mentions? Eker introduces this concept of the money blueprint. It's deeply ingrained into our subconscious and dictates how we relate to money. It's basically how some people... Why do some people have this incapability?
The relationship you have with money? Like what?
It's the blueprint. So what a blueprint means. It's the code, how you function. So, yes, it's shaped by past experiences, your upbringing, your social influence.
So, environment, basically.
And it can basically. So, if there's something you want to say, for example, for yourself, how your environment and how you think it would be different to someone, say, born in a completely different environment.
First of all, I think we can say that we're really privileged, first of all, being raised in developed countries, in developed situations, and that of course changes our relationship and our approach towards money. And I think you're right. The way you perceive things, the way you put yourself in those situations, actually totally changes the way you act. So manifesting something, in my opinion, of course, closely relates to what you're actually going to do. Okay,
now, because I said this is going to be more psychological, I'm going to be talking about, really quickly, the modeling theory. So why this is true. The modeling theory is a concept rooted in social learning theory. So psychologist students listening here, you know who Albert Bandura is. He suggests that individuals can learn behaviors, skills, and attitudes by observing and imitating others. Now, based on this, you think it's facts. But the way he did it was because...
Is it a study?
It's a study. Okay, Albert Bandura did this. This is a social... It's not social cognitive theory. It's social identity theory. This is what
okay.
You've heard of this?
Yeah.
Okay, so social identity. Have you heard of the Bobadil experiment?
No. I just know it by name.
Okay, so the Bobadil experiment is basically what they did is they had three different groups, and these three different groups were separated into. These were children, so they weren't older people who could have,
Okay, yeah.
And they would be placed in a room, and in the room, I'm paraphrasing, I'm improvising. But on the other side there was this boba doll, and it's a doll.
Okay, a doll.
It's a doll. It's like the one that kind of like moves.
Okay.
Anyway, so they would be sitting on each side across a room, and they would be witnessing an event.
Okay.
So one group would be witnessing the fact that the boba doll was being beat at.
Okay.
The other group would be witnessing that the boba doll is being nice to. The other one wouldn't witness anything. So, to conclude, it basically showed that the kids who saw that the boba doll was being aggressive to, after when they came up to the boba doll, they would do the same thing. Make sense?
So witnessing aggressive behaviors leads to
aggressive
but
behaviors.
so that's common, like in
It's common
education,
logic.
you see like you're being educated in an environment in which like
Yes, so
abusive parents, like okay, yeah,
like that guy, tell me your friends, I'll tell you your future.
Yeah.
So
okay,
it's
exactly.
basically the exact same thing here. So basically what this guy, why he talks about this is because he was going through a sort of like a period in his life where it was going really bad for him.
Okay.
And one of his father's friends, and he said this interesting quote. He asked him, so what are you thinking right now? To which he replied, I'm thinking that rich people keep their commitments and mine is to your father right now. Do you understand what he's trying to say here? He's basically trying to say is you have to keep your commitments straight. You have to know exactly what you're aiming for. And
so is that something specific from
no,
rich
but
people?
it's a deeper thinking type of thing. You have to model rich people, is basically what he's saying.
Okay, so the whole book is about modeling rich people and being
To
able
an
to
extent.
being able to observe their behaviors, and like the same way the kid does the same thing and be aggressive when the doll's aggressive. By being able to model someone rich, you'll be able to do the same. Is that more or less like the concept of the book?
To an extent, yes.
Okay.
But this book is much more general, like I said, to compare to what we did last time.
Okay.
Anyway, to kind of verify this guy's success, he ended up, I think 2 years later, selling his company to shares to a Fortune 500 company for 1.6 million.
Oh, so like before 25 years old, so great success.
Yeah, but he's talking about how two people side by side, for example, the ones he would be then tutoring, could learn the exact same thing, and yet one would be successful and one wasn't. And at the end of the day, this is why he wrote this book, trying to explain why.
Like, what's the difference?
What's the difference? Is it the Midas touch? Midas touch is something he discusses. Some people just, you assume they have one, they come in and it just works.
Okay,
Makes sense?
So like genetics, like
No, it's not genetics. It's just people who think differently. It's about like being able to, for example, if you're in a company, correctly select the people around you, so that the people who are around you just are practical. It works.
So it's about being practical.
Yeah, it's about how we live in a world of duality. He mentions it is not enough to be in the right place at the right time. You have to be the right person in the right time.
So what does that mean? Because I've looked at a podcast 2 or 3 days ago about what you need to succeed when you create a startup. And one of the first arguments and one of the most important concepts was being founder market fit, which means like you need to be the right person to run that company. More than the idea, you need to be the right person.
To be the right person
to know about
in the right place,
yeah,
in
exactly.
the right time.
So you need a team that fits the market.
And that person has to ask himself, like, do you deserve wealth? And for example, the key to success is to raise your own energy, and you do people when people will naturally be attracted to you, and then they will show, and then when they show up, build them.
Okay.
So your income basically can grow only to the extent that you do.
Can you extend on that?
For example, you told me you wanted to open up a startup.
Yeah.
But before you wanted to do that, you told me you wanted to first invest in yourself.
Yeah.
You can only grow your income to the extent that you do.
Okay.
You can
so
only
you
grow
think
your income the more you read, the more podcasts you open,
the more
everything.
So it's about discipline and way of improving yourself in general.
And
okay.
It's completely the mindset. It's having a millionaire mind. I guess,
but how does that correlate
makes
with income? Because, for example, I know a bunch of, let's say, top engineers, let's say, top philosophers. Those guys have amazing discipline. Those guys have amazing work ethic.
Yeah.
But they do research, which is like incredible, but they get paid maybe like $20,000 a year.
Yeah, that's why this book talks about things like stopping yourself and sometimes just telling yourself, I have a millionaire mind. But some people don't have a millionaire mind. Some people have a billionaire mind. For example,
some people just have.
But for example, Trump.
Yeah.
My guy went bankrupt. And he didn't go back to... Okay, would you consider Trump as successful if he had $20 million after being a billionaire?
I think no, on a relative note.
On a relative note?
No.
So he has a billionaire mindset. He went from being a billionaire, for whatever reason. Yes, my father loaned me $1 million.
Yeah.
But he lost that money. He did.
Okay.
And he went back to not being a millionaire.
But being a billionaire.
But being a billionaire.
Okay, but it's totally okay if you don't have a billionaire nor a millionaire mindset, right? Like, I mean, those...
the roots create the fruits.
No, okay, yeah, but for example, altruists, like people that genuinely want to become teachers, university teachers, people that want to become philosophers,
But it's also the experience of
researchers. Like, they have great experience, great work ethic, and they will never be millionaires because that's not what they're interested in. And how is that?
No, I'm not saying it, but again, this book is about how to be a millionaire, not the
okay, yeah,
not,
so
the,
that the
not
main
the general fruits of life.
okay, so
yeah, it's the idea of
wealth,
change
the wealth
the
fruits. Like, how do you get the wealth fruit?
Yeah, and sometimes you need to completely change yourself. Sometimes you need to alter yourself. Some people sometimes are too scared. Like, they have a path, they go by it, and they realize they don't work, but they're like, screw it, I'm gonna keep going by it. Sometimes you have to change the roots, not the plant. That makes sense? You have to...
Yeah, change the roots. Okay, yeah, totally like remodel the way you proceed with events. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think he speaks about this. Yes, it's a wealth principle he mentions. If you want to change the roots, you first have to change the roots. If you want to change the visible, you must first change the invisible.
Which totally makes sense.
Okay, going on. He mentions the 4 quadrants. One of the most important things you can understand is that we do not live in one plane of existence. In at least 4 different realms at once. So it's...
What is that about? Like perception?
Physical world,
yeah.
mental world, the emotional world, and the spiritual world. I mean, I can explain to you by literally reading out what he said of that, if you want that.
Yeah, go for it.
It's kind of a story. Okay, for example, let's suppose you've just written a letter on your computer. You hit the print key and the letter comes out of your printer. You look at your hard copy.
Don't read too fast. I cannot
follow that. Look at your hard copy and LO, and behold, you find a typo. So this is you write a letter on your computer.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
So you take on your rusty eraser and rub out the typo. Then you hit point again and out comes the same typo. And you're like, oh my God, how could this be, right? You just erased it, so this time you get a bigger eraser and you rub even harder and longer. You even study a 300-page manual called Effective Erasing. Now you've got all the tools and knowledge you need. You're ready. You hit the point and there it is. And again, no way. You cry out, stunned in amazement. How could this be? What's going on here? Am I in the twilight zone? What's going on here is that the real problem cannot be changed in the printout, in the physical world. So that one of the 4 quadrants. It can only be changed in the program, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual world.
Okay, so
money is
to illustrate it, the computer. So you have that command which is print hello. So as long as the invisible input is the same, you can erase as much as you want. If you press the enter button, it's gonna So it's about the code. Okay, the roots. Yeah, basically the roots.
Yeah, money is the result. Wealth is the result. Health is the result. These are all final destinations.
Okay, so I think this is really interesting because it's a misconception. I would say. Everyone has in our society. We always talk about those results. We always talk about health. And we lack, I would say, a lot to talk about the process behind it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's what the book talks about.
I mean, pretty much. It also discusses the importance of involvement. Being truly passionate about something changes everything.
Okay, and do you think that depends on what? Being passionate about something, like
again, based on your previous experiences. If you have a lot of I don't know, your father worked in space, you might end up being a CEO of a company that is somehow into this, but you will be successful in it because you are invested into it, because you have the roots of that plant.
Okay, so basically the roots,
and it leads to accelerated learning.
Okay,
as long as you are
passionate and involved,
passionate. It's the victim versus the creator mindset. The mindset of victims, people who blame external factors for the financial situation. You always hear these people, the economy is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Stop blaming the economy. Stop blaming Biden. I mean, he's pretty bad, but stop blaming Biden. It's the victim versus creator mindset. One person looks at adversity and he's like, okay, I'll figure it out. The other one looks at adversity and he's like, but too bad, I'll try it later.
Okay, yeah.
You know?
That makes sense. So it's in the inputs, actually in the code of the... Oh, that blueprint. That's your blueprint.
I mean, yes. That is your blueprint. To continue to talk about reconditioning, it's like introducing and reinforcing new positive beliefs through various methods, such as affirmations, visualization, and cognitive behavioral techniques.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to mention a wealth principle he created, which is TFAR. Thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results. So this was his original one, but then he realized...
Can you repeat the
yes,
path?
No problem. Thoughts lead to feelings.
Okay. So if you, for example, create a model of something that leads to maybe realization and then the feeling that comes from it, yeah?
And then that feeling leads to actions.
Okay.
And
so
those
I feel bad, I'm gonna do X, okay, yeah?
Lead to results.
And I do X, it leads to Y. Okay,
yes.
yeah, no, okay.
One he's missing, he found out he was missing, was kind of what he was talking about the whole book, and kind of what he knew his whole life, but he had to put a principle to it, was P. Programming. Programming.
And so in what part of the process does programming come?
Verbal program in the beginning.
So before thought?
Programming.
Okay.
Modeling and...
yeah, because your thoughts are programmed by...
What did you hear when you were young?
Yeah.
Verbal.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Or what did you see when you were young? Or...
so AIs, they just actually work like us. Like the same way you train a model, like humans are trained.
Humans are a system.
Fully on experiences. We process data and we have thoughts that leads to... Okay, no, that's pretty much interesting. That I feel like it's really nice to be able to put on paper like the full process on how do we act.
It's the idea of I create my life and life happens to me. And to mention this in a financial way, rich people play to win, poor people play to not lose.
I have trouble with it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The programming of someone not seeking wealth is how can I, like, at the end of the month be able to do X and Y, and the one seeking wealth will be about like achieving X or Y. Okay, yeah.
And in a way, this links to manifestation, which I believe
manifestation. But the thing is that even if that has been theorized recently, I would say, like, it's not something that... But from what year is the book, actually? That's interesting.
The book, it's... don't think it's too old. But... you kind of got me on the ropes. But...
we'll mention that in the description or
2005.
Something. 2005. So it's pretty recent. And I would say, psychologically in general, those things have been put on paper recently. But what's actually amazing is that even without it put on paper, like a lot of historical figures, a lot of events refer to that. So for example, about manifestation, Napoleon was choosing his generals a certain way, and it's probably a myth, and that's been romanticized a lot. But nonetheless, he was asking his general, first question, are you a lucky person in life? Are you a lucky person? And he was engaging only lucky generals that were actually referring to themselves as lucky. Because, yeah, it's about manifestation. And the same way Napoleon did that, I'm reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. That's probably going to be one of the next books we talk about. But Greek people were really optimistic and talking about the city of Zeus, saying all is for the best in this, the best of all possible worlds. So the world we were living in is basically the best, and all like everything that can happen and that's good about it is going to happen.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I think it's just funny to refer to all those, like...
Yeah, no, I find this funny because someone as Napoleon, who you would think is strategic, someone who's Napoleon, who would look at all the key points, this guy did this, he was successful on this battle, would ask something as, are you lucky?
Yeah, even a practical person when he's good enough, I think refers to those like points of manifestation, of being optimistic, of X, Y, Z. And I think, yeah, that leads pretty much to what the book talks about. If you program yourself like with a certain way of thinking, it's that's what's different. It's not bound to happen, but out of 100 simulations, you're gonna be more successful. Like it's about maximizing probabilities.
This book keeps telling you, it always tells you, always come back to telling yourself, I have a millionaire mind. That's what the book's called. Come back to always telling yourself that. As long as you keep telling yourself that, you can manifest your own success. And it doesn't 100% make sense, but again, psychological studies do say it is successful. If you keep telling yourself something, even if it's not true, I'm not sure who said it. I think it was Lenin. I think Lenin said this. I mean, you can fact check it.
Yeah.
He said, if you tell a lie enough, it becomes the truth.
If you tell a lie enough, it becomes the truth. I mean, he probably said it in a very different, in a very different. He was trying to say something else, but again, deep thinking. If you really think about it, he is right. If you tell someone something 100 times, it does become the truth. If you tell yourself, "I am smart, I am smart, I am smart," that's why I think
you end up being smart.
The same way this becomes true, but it does not become absolute truth. It just like gets rooted in people's minds. So I think the same, like for that millionaire mindset, you're not gonna turn into a millionaire X or Y day, but you're gonna have like more probabilities, more chances, and at the end of the day, actually more possibilities of becoming a millionaire. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, and for another example, again, I don't have the name, but there was a Russian scientist who was extremely successful, and he ended up solving one of the top 5 most hard problems, whatever.
Okay.
But when he was back at school, they told him, your son, he has problems. He's not a bright enough kid. Send him to a school for kids who need extra help.
Okay.
His mom never said yes. His mom was like, no, came back, took him home, spent like 5 years of homeschooling him or whatever. And she told him he's a fucking genius. My guy fully believed it. He came back to that school 5 years later. They had no idea what was going on because he was doing things that kids in, like, I assume in year 13 were doing it. But if he stayed in that school, he'd be one of those 100 IQ kids.
And so what I think the book's trying to say is that if you have a special needs kid and that you manifest greatness.
We don't guarantee this, by the way.
Yeah, we don't guarantee. No, but it's not bound to happen, but it's more likely to happen.
Take your chances.
Yeah, take your chances. And that's why there's studies about it and there's like factual correlation about it. In an optimistic society that talks about progress, that talks about future, that talks about innovation, you are actually more likely to lead to growth. Like, and there's graphs about this that I can showcase on the podcast. I actually have them on my phone. That correlates the releases of book talking about progress and optimism and the GDP growth. And so it talks about past centuries, UK versus Spain GDP, and actually talking about progress leads to more growth. So it's again about manifestation, taking your chances, and maximizing output.
But it's also your subconscious. At the end of the day, this is the one thing you cannot control, but you can alter it without, like, by slowly changing your habits. You agree?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, so when, for example, when your subconscious mind must choose, and it does, between logic, facts, or emotions, it always picks emotions. Your subconscious will always go for that. It will never go for logic. It will never go for facts. It will always. And your subconscious is what mainly covers your mind.
Would you say your emotions are led by the programming you're doing behind it?
Yes.
Or are they... You don't think there's a part in like nature and...
Of course. We're naturally inherent to do certain things, yes.
Genetically, I don't think... Yeah, you think so? Because I think more people, and there are studies about this, like even being born genetically are more likely to be happy than someone else. Or more likely to be depressed than someone else. Because of genetics. But
there's epigenetics.
First of all, there's epigenetics.
Genetic
but
the
the truth is that even being a depressed person or a happy person, programming yourself to be happier and seeking for greatness will always lead you, not like regardless of your background, to a better position. So yeah, no, that fully makes sense. And so is that only what the book talks about, or is there like
the book talks concepts about, in a way, how to manage your money. Because Okay, but first, for anyone who doesn't know epigenetics, because we just kind of said it, but epigenetics, it's you have a gene and it mutates throughout time based on your experiences. So if your experiences are a certain thing, for example, you had a tough childhood, you're going to end up being probably either a really, really broken guy or a really tough guy. But either way, it's going to be affected by your epigenetics. Okay. So genetics, yes, but they do alter. I'm not sure if it 100% affects your emotional game, but I assume it does. If you're saying that genetics, you can be born and you can basically already predict if the guy is going to be more happy than someone else. Is that what you're claiming?
Yeah, no, that's factual.
Okay, so yes, we have that, but again, experiences change everything. And so your subconscious, I'm not sure, but it's like, what, 80% of your mind?
I have no clue.
It's a lot more than your conscious mind. Okay. Your subconscious plays a much bigger role. If you can manage your subconscious, your subconscious manages your dreams. If you can manage those dreams, you can eventually grow.
Yeah. So epigenetics, I think, is like an actual big part of...
It's a big...
No, it's probably a small part, but I would say it's really important because depending on your health state at the moment you're having a child, he will be built different. Like if you're smoking, drinking, and doing no exercise and end up having a child at that period of your life, you're gonna have a worse child than if you were in good health, running every day, being passionate about your job, happy, and being healthy.
This is a fact, what you're saying, because I wrote a study on this. How abuse suffered in childhood leads to oppressive behavior in the future. Now, one of a huge part of my research paper was epigenetics, and children. Still, it all works. It's all cohesive. Children who experienced abuse in childhood, their epigenetics would actually alter. This was studied, this was checked, to when the kid would then grow up and he would become an abusive person, and then he would become just like his father, mother, whoever abused him, and end up in prison.
But so is that statistics or is that...
That's a thing. It's statistically, people who were abused will always lead to that. And but they were
always?
Not always.
Yeah.
You can always change, but it depends.
It's a more likely trait.
Depends when you catch it.
Yeah.
Because there's a period when a person changes a lot, and there's a period where the brain kind of stays the same.
Okay.
So if a child experiences it when he's 5 and stops experiencing it by the time he's 6 and then has great parents and he's 20, it's never gonna.
No, so that's why PTSDs are like for the bigger parts before you turn 16 years
16,
old.
12.
Okay.
You have to still remember it anyway.
Yeah.
But kind of moving on. And still kind of staying on the same topic. This book talks about a guy who was part of his thing, had no problem of making money. He made 800K.
Okay.
Now, I think I have this problem too. He had 800K, and no matter how little or how much he made, at the end of the year, at the end of the month, however much he made, he would always go back to zero. He was broke. He was broke. A guy who made 800K.
Casino.
He didn't do the casino.
So what?
He would always, for some reason, he would always lose all his money. Now, he began to ask himself the question, why? Because the guy's like, okay, you have no problem making money. You're one of my students. You're clearly fine, but now we have a problem of actually keeping it. And basically what he found out, like going back to the programming, is that his mother, as a child, told him money is of no value and there's no reason to keep it. And she would tell him that his entire childhood. Now, his job, luckily, whatever he went into, pays a lot. But because he had that mentality, he was not able to keep it, and he was always
obliterating his income
just
every
completely. And what he did for him is he forced him. He was like, okay, look, you're gonna have to follow this exact way of separating your bank accounts.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find this maybe interesting. Do you agree or do you disagree? Necessities account, 55%. Everyday expenses, your bills, your rent, your mortgage, your groceries. Financial freedom account. This is for your investments, your passive income. 10%.
Okay.
Yes. Long-term savings for spending account. This is probably for, I'm assuming, larger purchases. Another 10%. Education account. This money is allocated for ongoing personal education and growth. Your brain is a muscle. You have to continue training it. Yes?
Yeah.
10%. Play account. This is for fun stuff.
Yeah.
This is for going out
casino.
to the club. This is for the casino. This is 10%, and he's a nice guy. I'm not 100% for this, but 5% for charitable giving.
Okay.
But also gifts.
Great.
Gifts.
Great.
So this accounts for 100%. Disagreements, anything you change?
Well, I think that depends on everyone's situation, but I think using tools is the best way of changing your programming. Because I've read quite a lot about this, and most of the people, if not everyone, says, yeah, the billionaires, the successful people, they just have more will than me. They're just more like passionate. They're just more X, Y, Z, everything. But that's not true. Like factually, everyone has a bias. Everyone has vices. Is that what you say?
Yes.
And actually, the CEO and founder of Airbnb talks about this. He was spending way too much time on Twitter, and as a normal person would say, yeah, he's a billionaire. He's just gonna stop because he has will and he's really really great and he's a billionaire and he's done
TikTok
all those things.
Time.
Yeah, TikTok. But no, he had to put in place tools. He don't know that. But it's really specific. But the main point is that everyone, when trying to change your programming, has vices and has needs that can be helped by tools. Like tools, the same way you separate your income like that, are great help for this programming. That's a bit like a ChatGPT help. Gives you help in your work.
I completely agree. But to move on, what do you think about, just in general, I'm not even gonna, the role of giving?
The role of giving.
The role of giving.
In
charitable.
In what?
Being charitable.
Being charitable.
How do you think that affects your money?
But I know it makes you happy.
Yes.
Like, it's a fact. But apart from that, I have no. Yeah.
What if I was to tell you that statistically improves your wealth?
My wealth.
Yes.
Being charitable.
The idea behind it is that generosity will help foster a positive relationship with money and attract more wealth. But also, statistically, it does do that. Why do you think?
Do you have the answer?
No, I don't have the answer because the book just says it. It claims this as a fact, and it says, yes, if you have a positive relationship with money, you will earn more money. But I don't see how me giving money to a charitable organization. But at the same time,
most of the
maybe
people I know,
most
of the wealthy people that I know give a lot of money. Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's 100%.
First of all, maybe for tax purposes, but actually as well, because it leads, maybe to that positive relationship with money. I'm not able to explain that at all. I would have to think about it, but it's interesting, it's notable, but I have trouble like.
Maybe it's the idea that you're doing something for a good cause.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
you feel more motivated.
Yeah, being able to provide for a good cause maybe puts you in the mindset of continue this trend and this help growth. I have no clue about that, but that's really interesting. Yeah.
Okay, and what do you think about the biggest problem in relationships? Yes. What's the biggest problem in relationships? And the reason to why breakups, divorces happen in the United States, Europe, all the time. Yeah. The biggest factor is always. Money.
You think money?
It is.
Yeah?
Yeah. Why do you think that?
I think
I'm giving you a little QA. I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm answering questions to
money. I would have said asymmetric information if you asked me.
Okay, but why?
Asymmetric information?
Yeah, go on.
Because the not being in parallel and aligned with your partner or with anyone that's close to you in life leads to conflict. If you guys don't have the same data set at moment of discussion or at moment of taking a decision, you guys will inherently, fundamentally be on different paths and end up, it leads to conflict. And I think money, so why would money be one? But first of all, because it's one of the most important factors, no?
But because you're right.
Because I'm right?
Yeah.
Actually?
Yes.
Oh la 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 la.
Ah la 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 la. Basically, no. I just said money because I was wondering if you disagree with me, and you did. Well done. But it's yes, in his way. I mean, we discussed blueprints.
Yeah.
So it's blueprints. If your blueprint doesn't match with your partner, it causes divorce. Now, why did I say this? This is out of the blue. But if your blueprint doesn't match your business associates.
Yeah.
If your blueprint doesn't match your CEO, or whoever's your boss, or your blueprint doesn't match your customers, you end up in a divorce.
But guys, first of all, you should take notes if you're listening to a podcast, but I'm also going to take some because it's really interesting. Being aligned in the blueprint.
Being aligned in the blueprint of your partner. I mean,
it's something you should, it's not even like, okay, it's an easy thing to just mention, but I would say actively trying to be on the same blueprint as the people around you is probably a key to success.
And this doesn't mean that you have to be exactly like the person. No. Like, you know how the saying opposites attract?
Yeah, no,
You need someone who can potentially also challenge you. You're still in the same blueprint if you're challenging each other.
Yeah.
That's also a thing. But if you're in a completely different mindset, it still kind of links to money. If you don't have that, sometimes you'd rather be with a person who you know is going to be rich than a person who's already rich and you know who's going to lose it all.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just tell.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to work with the guy who doesn't have much, but you know he's going to be there.
Yeah, it's about trajectory.
Yeah.
Again,
would you rather work with
about
the kid
momentum,
who has $1 million or
yeah.
the Mark Zuckerberg who has nothing?
Yeah, no, that's true. 100%. 100%. But Mark Zuckerberg, yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg, with the greatest investment of all time. What was it?
Oh, that's a really funny story. I've heard about it in like 3 or 4 days ago. I actually didn't know about that.
I did Social Network. I did my research after the movie. But yeah, please.
But a guy, I don't even know what's his relationship with Mark Zuckerberg, but he gave him $15,000 like a pre-seed investment for 30% of the equity of Meta,
Yes.
Facebook, now Meta. And I think the guy is now worth like $22 billion. And yeah, one of the richest men of the planet. Probably the greatest investment ever. So as we repeated last time, don't put all your eggs on the same basket. But when that basket is Mark Zuckerberg,
you can put all your
throw everything at it. Throw everything at it.
I mean, at the end of the day, the more the risk, the more the reward.
Yeah.
Did you mention the guy's name, by the way?
I
have no idea. I mean,
okay, no.
Let's double check.
Give me 5 seconds. You can
Okay,
go on.
but I'll continue about the thing. Anyway, this guy, what he did was, this is just a random thing, but he ended up leaving the country.
Eduardo Saverin.
So they ended up
in 2003. So the guy left the country?
He left the country, and they called the law was Sovereign law. You can't leave the United States when selling a company or sell it in a different country to avoid taxes.
Okay.
So greatest investment of all time led to greatest
tax law.
Tax law also, and he kind of screwed it up for us, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. 22 billion. Well played to the guy. But anyway, so yeah, I would say it's about trajectory. The same way you choose Mark Zuckerberg at 18 instead of the richest guy on earth, instead of a really rich guy at the moment.
Don't put the richest guy.
Is about that momentum, and that's what we talk about acceleration. I would say in life, one of the most important factors is to always be in momentum. You can be at a speed of 200 kilometers. If you're not accelerating or decelerating, nothing's happening. Yeah, you're just sustaining yourself, which is something, first of all, not healthy, second of all, not stimulating, and third of all, boring. So that's why I think one of the key to happiness is, first of all, to have your closer circle of people on the same blueprint as you, to be able to like align your trajectory, and second of all, be in a constant momentum to be able to know new things, achieve new things, learn new things. And
it's also about identifying these people. Having a person in your company who's able to identify these people, like T.Harv Eker, because what he claims in this book is, give me 5 minutes and I can predict your financial future for the rest of your life. Yeah. So if you're able to analyze this book correctly...
Fortune Teller 2.0.
Fortune Teller 2.0. The Myra's touch, like he mentioned.
Amazing.
You come in and everything works out. But sometimes that's the thing. People claim, he comes into the business, he does something great. But he comes into the business and he brings the people who he believes will work, and a typical person might not. That's the whole debate about education doesn't matter.
Do you think that's a skill to be able to do that, or do you think
sometimes it's intuition? But intuition is based on previous experience.
Is it inherent, or can you work on that and train that muscle? Yeah. So
you can develop a pattern. You can spend enough time with enough people and find a pattern between people who are successful or who seem to have successful traits. If you're capable to identify that, you can become a variable person to your own business or to someone else's.
So it's about self-awareness. Yeah, everything is about self-awareness. Questioning yourself every fucking day of the week and momentum.
Having a good intuition. Intuition is very general, but it's based on...
And so I think I'm gonna go back to Mark Aurelius. I'm destroying content for one of the next podcasts. But he explains during the first book or the second book of his meditations, that you should do every action like it was the last one of your life. That's part of the Stoic mindset. And by doing that, you're in a constant momentum, constant acceleration or deceleration, and you keep on moving, and you keep on moving. So I would say great thinkers, even when they don't directly talk about that topic, correlate their thinking with it and do many like
Yes.
network connections with
and I
that
also
thing.
think this links to the idea that if you follow what Victor just said, and if you do everything to the max, even if you do everything to the max and you continuously fail, hopefully, and usually, no matter what, you will succeed. It's sometimes
Maximizing probability. We come back to maximizing
sometimes
probability.
people come back to the fact that I'm 25, I'm 30, and I still haven't succeeded. You have to keep trying. The guy who created KFC created it, I think, when he was 60.
Wow.
And now it's KFC.
Yeah, it was
You don't
crazy.
have to be always a Mark Zuckerberg. You can be the KFC guy.
No, yeah. Oh, and I see a
Quote
lot.
of the day.
I see quote of the day. You can be the KFC guy.
You can be the KFC
Because
guy.
I see so many people talking about Zuckerberg becoming a billionaire at 19 years
19
old.
years, too late.
I'm giving up. It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late.
And I don't think so, because the average startup that's successful and the average startup that goes to the stage of IPO, which means introducing publicly your company to the stock market. I don't have the exact statistic, but it's above 30 years old. Like it's experienced people
Smart people.
and trying resilience. It's all about resilience and doing and keeping momentum. Yeah. That makes sense.
I completely agree. Okay, so to kind of jump topic, what do you think about jealousy?
Jealousy.
Rich people admire other rich, successful people. Poor people resent rich and successful people.
I think it's also a way of programming yourself, and you can change that. But
Do you think jealousy is a huge factor, or do you think jealousy is a motivator?
no, but first of all, I think jealousy is so present. Like everyone is jealous. That's actually wow. That's outrageous.
But I think it's about your programming. Because for me, if I'm jealous of someone, but again, it's a bit, if there's too much jealousy, it ends up clouding your mind. But I think if there's enough, it can be a major motivator.
I don't.
But
think,
not for
I think
everyone.
it's useless.
But jealousy can push you. Oh, but that's a good debate then, because I think that
No, but
if I,
jealousy can push you, but inherently it's so unproductive. You gain
Yes.
nothing from jealousy. Like admiring someone
but
and
you can get a
aspiring.
push.
What?
You can get a push.
Yeah, but why link it to a negative emotion? Why link it to a negative emotion? Like if you admire someone,
Jealousy doesn't have to be that. It can be jealousy. Jealousy can be you judging yourself. You being like, damn, this guy, I haven't done shit, but and you're jealous of his success, so you want it.
I have trouble.
You're
like,
jealous of
with
someone's
it.
iPhone. There's a chance you're gonna end up buying it.
Yeah, okay, but okay.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it makes sense.
I get your point too. I get it completely. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Bottom line, jealousy and the argument you make for it makes sense. But I feel like it's so, like, you can do it in such a better way. Like, jealous people in general are not happy. Because by being jealous of someone, even if you reach that level, you're going to be jealous of something else. It's a never-ending cycle. And yeah, it's not a virtuous cycle. Because I think jealousy is a fuel that consumes you and that never stops consuming. Like, even if you get to the point where you want to X or Y, you're going to be jealous of something else.
So you think if you see someone successful, you have to be like, I admire that person.
Yeah, admire that person, and then
I bless that person.
and then like, yeah, because if you're jealous when you get to there, you're gonna see, he has a better wife than me. What the fuck? His kids are doing that. What the fuck? So you can always be jealous from something else. And I would say, like, positively admiring the mind and the ways of processing of someone and aspiring to be as good as him is, in my opinion, healthier. But I understand and I know many people that succeeded because of jealousy. But yeah, I don't think it's really sane nor healthy.
Yeah, but I think it's inevitable. At one point you end up... Because what do you think about how many times does life give you opportunities? Does it give you unlimited opportunities?
As many times as you reach for
there's-
them, as many times as you reach for it. Like,
Yeah.
if you manifest that opportunity.
But
yeah.
sometimes you get lucky. Like you
Most of the times you get lucky, but that's why Napoleon asked his general to
Yes.
be like about luck. Luck manifests itself.
But so far in your life, you've lived
No,
20
but-
years. How many times have you had a big opportunity?
I-
And you're a guy who's pretty
no,
strive for it.
like-
So imagine someone who's not like you. How many times is he gonna have it? I mean, I don't think. Have you had one?
yeah.
I haven't had one.
You haven't know. I think it depends on scale. Depends on anything. We've had like outrageously lucky and privileged opportunities throughout our whole lives. But it depends. It depends.
Yeah, it has to be scalable for someone.
It has to be scalable, first of all, and second of all, I think it's about manifestation, and it's all about maximizing probabilities. Like basing or thinking on personal experience is not really productive, because at the end of the day, manifesting something, thriving for it, and having a positive approach towards it will lead to better results anyway. Like statistically, if you take the, how do you say that in English, law of big numbers, like the if you flip the coin 100 million times, it's gonna end up being the half. The same way, if you thrive for better 1,000,000 times, it's gonna more likely to happen. And so yeah, that's what the book talks about.
Yes. And to kind of finalize, what I wanted to talk about was, when discussing, and this is something I want to talk about, the habits of millionaires. What do you think of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It is essential to, and this is important, to emphasize the consistency and disciplines of their daily routines.
Yeah.
Because I believe that a person who has a discipline, a person who sticks to waking up in the morning at 6 a.m., going to wherever they're doing, not smoking, working out every day, and doing what has to be done, is going to be a much more successful person. Actually,
But for sure.
yeah, but and this is Harvard published this, that the importance of morning routines among successful executives. It is found that people who engaged in morning routines experienced increased productivity, better time management, and lower stress levels.
No, so that's again something that we talked about before. Here we're talking about results. How do you implement that in your daily life, in your opinion? How do you implement that discipline, that routine? Because the results, we know about them. Harvard mentions them again. And we're going to be more productive, time management, less stress. But how do you get there? How do you get there in your opinion?
Nothing comes easy. Everything is hard. You have to force yourself.
Programming?
Program yourself. I mean, okay, like, I used to be able to wake up in the morning at 6 a.m., go to school, and it meant nothing. If I do this right now, I'll be screaming. It will hurt. I will not be able to do anything. Now, why is that? That's because when I finished school, I became a responsible person without my family, all by myself.
And you think how long? How long do you need to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, go to sleep at 11 p.m. and just pam, ball?
But that's the thing. I've been doing that. We've all been doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know when you start school in France, but I've been doing that for basically my whole life.
That's
and
fair.
the second it was gone, the second that disappeared, I was back to waking up at 10.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think maybe these people kind of ingrain it in their life, because I did it because I had to. If you tell yourself that you want to, or that it changes everything, and you tell yourself, okay, if I do this, it's going to affect me, not just because you have to or you lose attendance. Force yourself almost. If you force yourself, eventually what becomes hard now becomes easy. It's continuous learning.
Oh, no, for sure. And I think you've probably saw the same podcast as me. It's David Goggins with, what's the name of that neuroscientist, the famous guy?
I know what you're saying.
Well, okay. Anyway, he talks about studies that have been discovered recently about how your prefrontal cortex grows when you train it, and that prefrontal cortex is linked to doing actions that you don't want to. So waking up at 6 a.m., maybe taking a cold shower. Taking a cold shower might be a big one. And everyday actions, and by doing things you genuinely don't want to do, that part of your brain grows and leads to better discipline.
It's a physical change. Your brain is localized. Everything, your speech, your Broca's area part is responsible for speech.
And it gets bigger. So if you guys have 30 days in front of you and believe you can increment those change during 30 days, I think most of
whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, something that you don't want to do that increases your discipline, just makes it bigger, and it's gonna, again, it's not the key to success, because everything needs nuance, but you're maximizing probabilities of succeeding.
No, but it's straight up facts. These parts are responsible for certain things.
Yeah.
It's like I think I've talked to you about this Broca's area. It's a part of your brain that is responsible for complex speech networks.
Okay.
So a person who, I mean, maybe not exactly Broca's theory, but a part of your brain that is responsible for your ability to be good with words and be able to speak and all that stuff. If you just dedicate, but you do a podcast with your friend.
Yeah, do a podcast with your friend.
Go do such speeches. That part of your brain, it's not something you get used to, but think of it as a physical change. Your brain actually changed.
No, the same way you grow muscle, you can grow those parts of your brain.
Sometimes
it's actually the same thing.
It's actually changing. Your brain is a muscle. At the end of the day, if you train it, you change. It's also continuous learning. You have to continue to learn. You can never stop. Your brain becomes a mush.
Yeah.
This is something you can't stop. I mean, you're doing it young because you have to do it for school. You do it in your later teens because you want to open a company, whatever. Then you do it for your job, and maybe later you still have to do it because you don't want to get Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
The point is,
but
you always have to do
I
it.
think, and that also correlates with the fact that kids are sponges. You know, they absorb everything.
Very, yeah.
I think we become less efficient at doing that when we get older, and that's why we need to foster that fucking sponge. Keep on putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and
also based on the sponge, give yourself a break sometimes. Don't go. The muscles grow. The way a muscle grows is it breaks it down.
After you do leg day, you're not doing it the next day. You need breaks.
Yeah.
You need breaks.
So be smart about the way you work too. Smart.
But
we're not telling you to go and work 24 hours.
Yeah, no. But what's I think is really important is when you hear everyone tell you about how going out of your comfort zone is so important, and they always mention this comfort zone. I think to break it down is to actually do actions that you don't want to do. Yes. To grow that muscle, train that sponge, and be able to absorb more at the end of the day.
And at the end of the day, you're a more well-rounded person.
You're a more well-rounded person by those little habits you took, by those decisions you took, that get easier with time. And it gets to the point where if at some point you're not, like you want to take that cold shower, this part of the brain doesn't grow anymore. You need to keep challenging yourself to grow that muscle.
And keep doing new things.
So that comfort zone directly links to the fact that when you take that habit of taking that cold shower and it's not bothering you anymore in the morning, but you still get the health benefits from it, which is great, but you're not anymore actively working on that muscle and need to challenge yourself on other specific aspects. I think that's what's being meant when we talk about comfort zone. And you can apply it to most of the behaviors you have and most of the actions you do throughout the day.
Yeah, and you have to keep doing new things, basically what you're saying. I mean, don't end up being the American. When we watch these videos of Americans on TikTok, when you ask them, what's the capital city of whatever, and they don't answer to you, it's not because they're dumb. We all assume they're dumb. And maybe they actually are. But it's because the way certain systems work. If you're a person who wants to go do something, go work for someone, good for you. But if you're a person who wants to be a well-rounded person, catch pretty much anything, you have to do everything. Because these people, like going back to what I said, they aren't dumb people, but they're experts in one specific thing. They do one thing that they're used to, whatever it is, whether it's finance, whether it is whatever. Maybe if you ask them a question on how's the economy doing or how do you calculate this, they'll be perfect. But if you ask them a thing like, where is Europe? They'll never answer it to you. So you have to do everything. You don't want to be that one person who's good at only one thing, because you end up being good at that one thing, but you end up sucking at everything else.
And that comes back to bases of philosophy, culturism, and being able to foster multiple parts of your brain. It's about exploring so many fields, so many parts of knowledge that then you're able to do connection, build things, create links, and you basically develop all that ecosystem that at the end of the day make you, one, happier because you understand the world you live in, two, more relevant because you're able to share that knowledge with people, and three, more likely to be successful because generalization, being able to know a lot about a lot of topics, directly puts you in a position in which you can innovate, in which you can think about new processes, and in which you really are a more efficient human being.
I completely agree. And also...
It was a bit of a monologue.
No, but I agree. And also, don't just read. Improve your social impact network. You have to network.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just... reading is never enough. 85% of jobs are filled through networking. You have to leverage your opportunities.
Is that an actual number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. You have to... reading isn't just enough. So when we say develop your brain, we also mean that you can gain a lot of insights through networking.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, these are... I think we mentioned like 3 out of the 4 key aspects of becoming rich. I think we're probably missing maybe one. Maybe financial discipline. But we already kind of hit on this.
Yeah.
So if you hit all these points, networking, continuous learning, habits, that kind of links with the continuous learning. But... you can achieve and you can be more prepared. But like we said in the beginning...
go for it.
But like we said in the beginning, everything we say, you're probably going to still continue doing those mistakes. We're young ourselves. We're going to do it ourselves. That's the funny thing. You know exactly what you're aware of. You're able to speak it, but you're probably still going to do the same mistake.
And the same way during that podcast, we basically said the same things over and over again. But differently, by introducing different concepts and by trying to grasp it from all sides. And the same way, that idea that we try to transmit, we build multiple layers of information around it. When you create that discipline and you want to put yourself out of this comfort zone, to say it, to generalize it, you need to slowly build those layers of action, build those layers of information. And even if we know you're probably not gonna do shit tonight or tomorrow, try to do that one thing for 1 month, that one thing you've been thinking about that maybe I should do it. That just
don't over-exaggerate.
Yeah, don't over-exaggerate. Don't overthink it. Do it for 1 month, and that part of the brain is gonna physically grow. The same way you go at the gym to train your muscle and grow them, you need to take action and do those things.
And that will eventually. I mean, this is probably another aspect: resilience and adaptability. You need to have that capability of bouncing back up if anything goes wrong. In long term, you need to have resilience. Nothing ever goes the way it's planned. Nothing ever works out the way you want it to. Everything always ends up being wrong. Even there's no such thing as a perfect plan.
Yeah,
maybe AI proves us wrong, but so far we are humans.
The human brain is not capable of doing a perfect plan, and it's okay. And so that's why the whole game of life is about maximizing probabilities. Some were born with X, some were born with Y, but at the end of the day, maximizing probabilities by doing all the things that we talked about and that the books talked incredibly about. I don't know about it, but I'm gonna read it now because it kind of raised an appetite about it. And that I think on a closing note, that's more or less what we could say. Like, foster your mind, build new processes, and program yourself, because that's the most important.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to say something from Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, again. I love that guy.
Everything we hear is an opinion. It's not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective and not the truth.
And so,
this doesn't mean
guys,
ignore us.
I think it's one of the biggest fuck up ending of the... No, I don't know how it relates. How does it relate?
To what I just said? Yeah. Because no matter what...
Yeah, it's not empirical. Yeah, it's not empirical, and
you have to be able to bounce back. Yeah. Nothing is the way you think it is. Mm-hmm. But having a basis, having this rock that we hope we kind of helped provide.
Yeah. And build layers around it to start implementing those routines and become a better version of yourself. And hopefully you become as successful as the author of this book.
Yes.
So thank you very much, guys. It was the second episode of Let's Dive In. And
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T.Harv Eker. Or Eker.
Eker, yeah. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.